Welcome to Speaking While Female, Defeating Gender Bias. This is Lori Reichel-Howe, delighted to be with you today. And heads up, the challenge this presentation addresses is how can women speak assertively with honest integrity and be listened to without experiencing social backlash? In essence, how do we overcome gender bias, female stereotyping, or any kind of stereotyping that limits one's success? You see, as we dress differently for different occasions, implementing different communication strategies for different situations empowers us to counter and dismiss gender bias, as well as the negative judgments that come with that. So, as a leadership and communication coach, I support women in advancing their careers. And one of the hindrances that I help women overcome is gender bias. Now, while it's possible that gender neutral workplaces exist, they are rare and not a reality in most workplaces. The two realities for most women today include gender stereotypes, along with many other stereotypes, they exist. And while many exist in this world, today's focus will specifically focus on the gender bias commonly faced by women. Now, the second reality is that you have the power to purposefully counter gender bias at work. And I will present 3 strategies for overcoming gender bias. Now, I am first of all, though, going to give you some time to think and reflect. I'd love to have you participate, and I want to hear what are your observations, your experiences in the workplace, particularly in the area of behaviors being interpreted differently when demonstrated by a man versus by a woman. So reflect just for a moment on how behaviors may be positively interpreted for a man, and yet those same behaviors interpreted negatively when displayed by a woman. So let's take, for example, a man. His behaviors are coming across as assertive. So he's called assertive. When a woman demonstrates those same behaviors, give me a few words to describe how she's identified. He's assertive. She's, got your words? Here are the words that have been shared with me by others. While he's considered assertive, she's considered bossy, abrasive, that B word that rhymes with witch, or a bulldozer. Do those resonate with you? Let's do another comparison. While a man's behaviors are identified as, whoa, he's persuasive, the woman demonstrating those behaviors, what words might be used to describe her? Let's see if your words match any of the ones I've been given before. He's persuasive, but she's pushy, manipulative, always nagging. Try a third comparison. He is passionate. She's, ready? Emotional, hormonal, woo, or out of control. Okay, final comparison. People have told me that when a man's behaviors are interpreted as he's direct, to the point, a woman's behaviors, well, if you have your words, here are mine. She's blunt, she's crass, arrogant, rude, even disrespectful. All of those words have been shared by others watching the same content. Now, as unfair as it is, women are burdened with a cultural stereotype that typecast women as nurturing and caring. And while women are both, many demonstrate both of those qualities. The problem is that when this stereotype is so narrowly defined that it's limiting. And when women then speak up assertively, they are at risk for being seen as angry versus as being strong, assertive, powerful, confident. While speaking forcefully or directly creates a social backlash for both men and women, it is still more severe for women. And this backlash occurs when observers, they draw negative conclusions about the speaker as well as the speaker's intent. So while we work to make workplaces more equitable, which we need to do, I will give you 3 communication frames that will help you overcome gender bias. Believe me, I have no belief that that will be, that we will get rid of that in my lifetime. So while we still fight to have that happen and promote that, in the meantime, having strategies to counter it can help you speak up and have your words listened to. So instead of passively accepting gender skewed stereotypes, you can speak a few words or a short phrase that explains your intention, why it is you're speaking, and do this before sharing your content. Oftentimes called share your intent before your content. Let them know why you're speaking before you make your points. Now, I'll describe each frame and provide demonstrations of women implementing each frame. All of the 3 women that I will use have strong concerns about the direction proposed by organizational leaders, since they believe that there is a huge amount of negative impact that will result from these proposed directions. Each of these women believe that it's critical that they share their concerns and that they do so assertively as well as with honest integrity. At the same time, they believe it's possible, even likely, that voicing their concern is going to be interpreted in any of the following ways: impulsive, aggressive, oppositional, even unsupportive of leadership. Now, since these women see these decisions as high stakes and high stake consequences, these women are convinced that it's important for them to communicate their thoughts and concerns, even though there may be that stigma from speaking up. So let's right now look at this first frame. It's called the what frame. A what frame communicates that what you are about to say is going to be intentional, not emotional. The second frame, which is a why frame, will give you a chance to communicate why you are speaking up, really your motivation. And the third frame that will be modeled by Susan, she will communicate the risk she is willing to take and is taking in sharing her thoughts. So let's look at each one individually, beginning with the what frame. Now, a what frame involves making it clear that what you are about to say is intentional and strategic. Since impulsive and emotional people do not announce what they were going to say before they say it, I believe this is a brilliant way to counter any bias or judgment of you being emotional. Now, a benefit of this is that it explains your action in a way that reduces negative judgment of your words. Additional benefits include that it creates and demonstrates intentionality. You're presenting your thinking versus your feelings. And this allows you to diffuse any interpretation of being interpreted as emotional or impulsive. It also sets the stage, thereby minimizing the chance of surprising people, of preventing faulty assumptions from occurring, and you avoid blindsiding people. You've given them that heads up. Let's now look at how Sophie implements this what frame. And the scenario is that she is opposed to the idea proposed of a possible company merger. Here is how she navigates this. She begins speaking using the what frame. Let's listen in as she speaks.
Having experienced a past merger in a previous job, and having invested time considering both the pros and cons of a merger, here are my specific thoughts.
Let's look at a second what frame that she demonstrates.
Since I've given this topic considerable thought, I'm going to identify specific concerns that I see.
Now, I'd like to give you a chance to reflect on both of Sophie's what frames. And here are a few questions, and you are free to consider these questions independently or within your group. You can certainly pause the recording. I will read the questions, and then you'll see below the questions the frames that were just demonstrated by Sophie. Think about, with her frames, what image did Sophie convey? How does she come across to you? Now, what are the benefits of Sophie using this frame? And then looking at the words that I've highlighted below, what do these words convey? What might they, how might they counter also negative judgment? So pause me if you'd like to discuss, if you'd like to think and examine that. And then I'm going to move on to the second frame, which is the why frame. And the why frame involves communicating your personal values. It could be a matter of your moral compass, a value of integrity, character, or honesty. It could also be referencing organizational values, what the organization has posted on their walls and their vision statement. Also, you may want to just simply identify your motivation, why you are speaking. Now, the benefits of this, it provides a positive explanation for assertiveness, and thereby it minimizes your assertiveness as being interpreted as aggressive or forceful, kind of like you cut them off at the pass. Examples. Here's a scenario of Carolyn is opposed to the proposed direction of a company merger. And here she is using her why frame, referring to her personal values.
Because I see this as a matter of honesty and integrity, it's important for me to be clear about where I stand.
And then here she is referencing
Since our
organizational
organization
values.
values honesty and transparency, I'm going to share my perspective and concern regarding a company merger.
And let me show a third one, motivation, why she's speaking
Because I
up.
want us to make the best possible decision for our organization, I believe.
And then she will go on and give her points. Now, again, feel free to some questions I'd like you to think about. I will run through these quickly, but please go ahead and pause if you are doing this independently or with a group so you can invite some thinking and discussion. What image does Carolyn convey in using these, three frames, her why frame? How does she decrease judgment of her being seen as aggressive or forceful? What are the benefits of her identifying personal values, motivation, even organizational values? Lastly, let's look at a third frame. It's the risk taker frame. And this involves identifying that what you are about to say could be interpreted as controversial or negative if the motive is not understood. So particularly when you fear a negative interpretation of what you might say, address it right away and give the flip side. The benefits here is this identifies your courage to speak up, even when controversial. You are demonstrating that you are a risk taker. You are not wishy-washy, and you won't be backing down from taking important risk. It really shows that communicating your beliefs is more important to you than pleasing or appeasing. This also shows your commitment to an organization, that doing the right thing is a stronger force within you than being comfortable or being liked. Here is a scenario with Susan. She has concern regarding the CEO's proposed direction of moving the company headquarters to a different state. Now, let me also let you know that the state that the CEO proposed moving to happens to be what was his home state, where in this case, he grew up. And here are two examples of Susan using the risk taker frame.
While there is a chance that what I am about to say will be considered controversial, I believe that making the best decision requires that we.
And here we go again, a second risk taker.
While there is a chance that people could easily interpret sharing my concerns as being unsupportive of leadership,
She just, the thing that you fear, get it out there and show a different perspective. So here are some questions to ponder and reflect on. How would you describe Susan, given the last two frames that she shared? What values do you believe she conveys? What are the benefits for her in using this risk taker frame? And how does Susan using this frame counter negative judgment? So pause if you'd like. Ian, before concluding this session, I want to briefly address the importance of, and the important topic of your voice. So your voice, specifically the tone of your voice, is as important as the words you speak. So since your voice tone communicates feelings, I'm going to leave you with 3 points to remember. 1, make sure that to be intentional, aware of your voice. In regards to, you'll want to maintain an even tone throughout. Speak deliberately and avoid signaling or giving any sense of frustration, avoiding sarcasm, curtness. A voice tone that communicates either frustration, anger, or attack, well, that comes across as emotionalism, and it will not communicate the message that you want to present. Matter of fact, it'll be just the opposite. Avoid shifting to a high pitch, particularly when you are under duress and feeling stressed. Women already have a higher pitch than men, so try to stay away from the highest registers of your voice, keeping your pitch as low as you can, comfortably and naturally. Lastly, a good gauge is always to be in sync with others. This will increase your persuasiveness, enhance your impression as someone who is approachable, but also socially aware and sensitive, even a sense of diplomacy and comfortability. While there are times when direct and fast pace is needed, you may have to match that of the group. Typically, a steady, moderate pace, neither slow or rushed, should really be your goal. And when people find your speech's tempo is pleasant and easy to listen to, well, you are more likely to make an impression of knowing what you are talking about. There will be a sense of confidence that you will just exude. The content of all of my session today is really one of the many resources that I have housed within my Safe Conversations, leadership training and coaching. And I've created a library for many of the resources, my training videos, as well as my supplemental videos that give you demonstrations of safe conversations, navigating those difficult, awkward workplace issues. So if today's content resonated with you and you'd like to hear more, please go to my website, www.conversationsintheworkplace. Once you do that, you will see my homepage. At the bottom, under the picture, you'll see a Let's Talk button. If you click on that, it will take you to a place where you can set up a 30-minute complimentary consultation with me. So I'd love to help you strategize. I'd love to have you find ways to further develop your leadership and effective communication, and thereby increase your success. So in closing, don't back down or become silent. Instead, develop communication skills that present yourself in a way that others will hear and understand, while recognizing the value of what you have to say. So this is Lori checking out. I am delighted to have you journey with me on Speaking While Female, Defeating Gender Bias.